Having flat feet does not mean you need custom orthotics, special shoes, or that you need to just not run. I remember when I was 10 years old, I went to a podiatrist. He shoved me in custom orthotics because I had knee pain and flat feet. Nowadays, we don't need to necessarily worry about that because there are pros and cons to each arch type. If you have a flat foot, you most likely have a more mobile foot. It moves a lot more compared to if you have a higher arch. It's more likely that it's a little bit more rigid, which means it doesn't move as well, and we need to work on that mobility. Now, on the flip side, if we have a lot of movement in our arch and in our foot, then we most likely need to work on the stability. And that's what we're gonna work on today. If you have flat feet, don't worry. Doesn't mean you're set up for injuries, doesn't mean you're doomed or you have to spend all this money to build up your arch. What you really need to do is strengthen your arch. Let's go through 5 different exercises you can do to strengthen and stabilize your flat feet.
Tendon. At the end of the video, I'm gonna show you why you don't necessarily need custom orthotics or even over-the-counter orthotics, and why you can rely on the strength of your arch to do the job for you versus relying on an external tool. The first exercise we're gonna go through is to strengthen the posterior tibialis tendon. Now this tendon is really important because it connects on the inside of the shin, wraps around the medial bone here of the ankle, and then it connects into the arch. So this is basically a huge arch stability muscle that we need to have a strong and powerful push off when we're running. Otherwise, if we don't have that arch stability, that posterior tibialis tendon won't be working 100% like it should, and our push-off won't be as strong, which means we're gonna be doing more work when we're running, and we're not gonna be running as fast as maybe we would like to. So grab a lacrosse ball, and we're gonna place it in between your heel bones here, and then I want you to hold on to a wall. From this position, we're gonna lift both heels up and down. As you do this, I want you squeezing your heels into the ball so the ball doesn't drop as you lift your heels up and down. You can try about 20-30 reps of those, and then just take note if one side feels weaker than the other, but you should start to feel it on the inside of your shin. For the next exercise, go ahead and take a seat. And I'm gonna make 2 fists and place them in between my knees here. This is just so I don't move my knees out and in, which means I'm basically getting movement from my hips and my knees. And I wanna make sure that this movement stays at my feet and at my ankles. So place 2 fists between your knees, keep your heels on the ground, and then lift your feet up, out, down, and then up, in, down. When you do this, you're strengthening the anterior tibialis tendon on the front of your shin and that posterior tibialis tendon we already talked about. So you're bringing your feet up as far as you can, out as far as you can, and down, up as far as you can, in as far as you can, and down. You'll start to feel this working a couple reps in because this one it's a sneaky one. It's definitely a burner for the feet, for the ankles, and I would recommend doing about 20 to 30 reps of these. Exercise, I'm gonna lean against a wall and I'm gonna place my opposite foot a little bit away from the wall. So it's really forcing me to lean into the wall, keeping my body in one diagonal line. I'm not sticking my butt back. I'm not kicking my hips out to the side either. I'm gonna stand on one leg and I'm gonna lift up into a heel raise and back down. As I lift up, I'm pushing my big toe down into the ground. So this is getting more of that posterior tibialis, medial calf, big toe, and those foot intrinsics as we come up and down with control. So we're not just rushing through this exercise. We're lifting up with our heel up as far as we can, and then back down. And us leaning means we're putting more weight through the arch in the big toe and that posterior tib. For exercise number 4, I'm gonna stand with both feet facing straight ahead. And all I'm gonna do is push my toes into the ground and then try to pull them back towards my heel. As I do this, I'm not curling my toes, I'm pushing my toes down, pulling them back, and then I'll start to make an arch as I do this, and then I'll relax. So make an arch by pushing your toes down, pulling them back towards the heel. Hold about 4 or 5 seconds, and then you can relax. This is called short foot, so we're really just focusing on making an arch, holding that contraction, and then relaxing. So it does work the posterior tibialis tendon. It also teaches your big toe to push down into the ground, and then it works those foot intrinsic muscles that sit under your plantar fascia that help to control the arch as well. A progression of this exercise is that we're going to make the arch. We're going to hold this contraction as we squat down and then come back up and then relax the arch. So pushing your toes down, pulling them back towards the heel to make that arch contraction. Squat, up, relax. Make the arch, hold it, squat, relax. So now we're adding a dynamic movement onto an isometric hold of the feet. And relax. Make sure as you're doing this, you're not just bringing your feet out, you're also not curling your toes. You want to make sure that you're pushing them down and pulling them back, and then relax. It's a very subtle movement. It's not super big, but especially if you have like more of, a not as flat foot, it's not going to be as big of a movement, but it is going to help to strengthen that medial longitudinal arch that we want to be nice and strong and stable. So you've strengthened the arch, and that is really big because a lot of the times when we are looking at running shoes, if we have flat feet, we might be recommended a stability shoe to help control the arch, control the pronation. But if we have a strong arch, we have a strong posterior tib, we have a strong big toe, we have a strong foot and ankles, then we don't necessarily need that external support because our foot is doing its job, our arch is doing its job, and we're able to control that motion, which is really big if you have flat feet. So when we're standing on orthotics, I just grabbed one over-the-counter orthotics. You can see that there is some arch buildup here. So this orthotic is made for someone with flatter feet because of this arch buildup. Now, if I had higher arches, then I would not necessarily need this because I have a more rigid arch. I would need something with more cushion and more give because I'm lacking that mobility and I already have the arch.